They thought they were erasing him. They didn't know they were ringing a bell that couldn't be unrung. When Principal Whitmore expelled Daniel Okoye, the quiet son of a school janitor, he believed he was restoring order. Another poor child put in his place. Another invisible family reminded of where they belonged. To Whitmore, the boy was nothing more than a uniform out of line. To the school, it was just paperwork. An expulsion notice slipped into a thin brown envelope and handed down like a verdict. What they didn't see was the man who scrubbed their hallways every night. The father who heard everything, remembered everything, and owed no one an explanation. They didn't know the school had just touched a past that never forgot its debts. They didn't know that one careless decision had activated something far bigger than them. Because by the next morning, the sound over the playground wouldn't be the bell. It would be blades cutting through the sky. And when the helicopter landed, the school would learn the difference between a janitor they ignored and a truth they could no longer escape. The alarm went off at 4:47 a.m. Tavion Okoye was already awake. 48 years old, broad-shouldered, with calloused hands that told the story of 3 decades of manual labor. A man who'd learned early that the world didn't make space for people like him. You had to carve it out yourself, quietly, without complaint. Cold shower. Instant coffee. 2 pieces of toast. The photo on the refrigerator showed him holding a baby. His son, Kairo, 14 years ago. Before Riverside Preparatory Academy. Before scholarships and silences and the crushing weight of invisible expectations. By 6:15 a.m., Tavion was pushing his janitorial cart through the marble hallways of Riverside Prep, where annual tuition cost more than he made in a year. Vaulted ceilings. Mahogany paneling. Trophy cases filled with awards. Portraits of alumni who'd gone on to run companies, sit in Congress, shape the world. Tavion had been cleaning these floors for 11 years. 11 years of becoming invisible. But invisibility was the price of admission. Not for him, for his son. Because Kairo Okoye, against all odds, was a student at Riverside Prep. Full academic scholarship. The only black student in his year. The smartest kid in the entire school. What Tavion didn't know yet was that in less than 4 hours, everything he'd built would come crashing down. And by tomorrow morning, the entire world would be watching. By 8:30 a.m., Kairo sat in advanced calculus. 14 years old, tall for his age, with his father's broad shoulders and his late mother's intelligent eyes. He moved through the world with careful quietness, as if taking up too much space might invalidate his right to be there. He'd learned the rules early. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't correct teachers. Don't draw attention. Don't remind anyone that you're different. But brilliance has a way of drawing attention whether you want it to or not. Mr. Orange Brexley passed out exam packets. You have 90 minutes. Begin. Kairo moved through the problems with quiet precision. By the time his classmates struggled through question 4, he was on question 12. Mr. Brexley stopped at his desk. You're rushing, he said loudly. Question 7. Your methodology is flawed. Kairo glanced at the problem. His answer was correct. He'd checked it twice. I don't think it's flawed, sir. I used substitution to... Are you arguing with me, Mr. Okoye? The classroom went silent. 23 students stopped working, looked up. Something in Kairo, something that sounded like his father's voice saying don't apologize for being right, made him speak. My answer is correct, sir. I've checked it twice. Mr. Brexley's expression turned to ice. See me after class. What Kairo didn't know was that Mr. Brexley was already reaching for his phone. Already composing a text that would change everything. When the bell rang, Kairo remained seated. Mr. Brexley leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Do you understand what you did wrong today? I answered a question correctly? You embarrassed me in front of the entire class. His voice was sharp. Do you know how many strings were pulled to get you into this school, Kairo? How many accommodations have been made for your situation? There was. The word that poisoned everything. Accommodations. As if his perfect entrance exam scores didn't matter. As if his 4.0 GPA was a gift rather than earned. I earned my scholarship, Kairo said quietly. Did you? Or did the administration need to fill a diversity quota? The words hit like physical blows. My entrance scores were the highest in school history. I maintain perfect grades. I tutor half the students in this class. I didn't need strings pulled. I belong here. Get out of my classroom. And expect a call from Principal Veyron's office. We don't tolerate insubordination at Riverside Prep. Kairo left, walked to the bathroom, locked himself in a stall. Let the tears come. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the text message Mr. Brexley had already sent. We have a situation with the Okoye boy. Insubordination and disrespect. This scholarship experiment isn't working. Time to address it. At 1:15 p.m., the announcement came over the intercom. Kairo Okoye, please report to Principal Veyron's office immediately. 3 floors below, Tavion's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Okoye? This is Principal Veyron's office. We need you to come up immediately. It's regarding your son. The line went dead. Tavion looked at his cart of cleaning supplies, at the job he couldn't afford to lose. Then he headed for the stairs. What he didn't know yet would change both their lives forever. Principal Surya Veyron's office occupied the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Degrees from prestigious universities. Photographs with senators, business leaders, celebrities. When Tavion entered, Kairo was already there, sitting in a chair designed to make visitors feel small. Mr. Okoye, please sit. Both chairs sat noticeably lower than the principal's. A psychological trick. There's been an incident. Kairo was disrespectful to a teacher today. Argumentative. Challenging. What happened? Tavion asked. The details are in the report. What matters is that this isn't the first incident. Kairo seems to have difficulty understanding his place here. His place. Riverside Prep has certain standards. Your son seems to believe the rules don't apply to him. Tavion picked up the report. This says he corrected a math problem. He argued with a teacher in front of 20 students. Was he right? About the math problem? Principal Veyron's expression hardened. Whether he was right is irrelevant. The issue is his attitude. His arrogance. He's 14 years old. He's a kid who loves learning. Your son has a charity scholarship. And with that comes certain expectations. Gratitude. Humility. Understanding that he's here because we chose to give him an opportunity. There was the truth behind all the polite language. Charity. My son earned his scholarship, Tavion said quietly. Perfect entrance scores. Top of his class. Did he? Or did the administration have certain diversity requirements to meet? She opened a file. Kairo has received multiple warnings from teachers. Complaints about his attitude. That's not true, Kairo started. Are you calling your teachers liars, Kairo? The perfect trap. Speak, and he's insubordinate. Stay silent, and he accepts lies as truth. What do you want? Tavion asked. I'm requesting that you voluntarily withdraw Kairo from Riverside Prep. Effective immediately. The words landed like an explosion. You're expelling him. I'm suggesting a voluntary withdrawal. For everyone's benefit. Perhaps a public school would be more appropriate for his temperament. And if I refuse? Principal Veyron's smile didn't waver. Then I'll have to reconsider whether your continued employment serves the Academy's best interests. Conflict of interest, you understand. Withdraw his son, or lose his job. You have until tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Either come with a signed withdrawal form, or collect your final paycheck. But what Principal Veyron didn't know was that she just made the biggest mistake of her career. That evening, Tavion sat at the kitchen table, papers spread in front of him. Medical bills, rent receipts, grocery lists that tracked every dollar. A life built on the edge of survival. At 11:17 p.m., he pulled out his phone, stared at a contact name. Do not call unless emergency. 7 years. He'd carried this number for 7 years, always promising himself he'd never use it, because using it meant admitting he needed help. But this wasn't about him anymore. He pressed dial. 3 rings. Then a woman's voice, smooth and alert despite the late hour. Tavion Okoye. I was wondering when you'd call. 7 years earlier, Tavion had been driving home in a rainstorm when he saw it. A massive pileup. 3 cars, twisted metal, glass everywhere. The third car was on fire. Through the shattered window, he saw her. A woman, trapped by a seatbelt, driver's side door crushed shut. Conscious but panicking as smoke filled the vehicle. Tavion didn't think. Smashed the window, climbed in despite the flames, cut the seatbelt, dragged her out as the gas tank ignited behind them. They collapsed on the wet pavement, breathing hard. "You saved my life," she'd said. She'd pressed a business card into his hand. Imani Solari, CO, Solari Technologies. "Anything. Anytime. You call me, and I'll move heaven and earth. I owe you my life." "You don't owe me anything," Tavion had replied. "Yes, I do. And I always pay my debts." Now, 7 years later, he was finally making that call. "Ms. Solari, I need help." At 12:47 a.m., a black Mercedes S-Class pulled up outside the apartment building. Kairo went to the window, watched a woman step out. Designer coat. Perfect confidence. An aura of absolute power. 5 minutes later, she was sitting on their threadbare couch. Kairo's eyes went wide when his father introduced her. Everyone knew Imani Solari. Billionaire. CEO of Solari Technologies. Forbes cover. One of the most powerful black women in America. And she was sitting in their living room at 1 in the morning. "Hello, Kairo. Your father tells me you're good at math." Yes, ma'am." "How good?" She showed him a complex quantum mechanics equation on her phone. Kairo studied it for 40 seconds. "It's unsolvable as written. There's a variable missing. But if you're asking what X equals assuming standard quantum field theory conditions, it's 47.32. Imani smiled. "Your father saved my life 7 years ago. I was in a car accident. My vehicle was on fire. Your father pulled me out before it exploded. Refused any reward. Refused everything except my phone number." Kairo looked at Tavion, who was staring at the floor. "He never told me. Because he's a good man who doesn't keep score." Imani's expression hardened. "Tonight he finally called. He told me about Principal Veyron. I know her. She sits on several boards I fund. She's skilled at maintaining certain barriers while appearing inclusive. I don't understand why you're here." "Because your father finally asked for help. Because I owe him a debt I can never fully repay. And because brilliant black children should never have to apologize for their brilliance." She stood. "Tomorrow morning, be at school at 9 a.m. Both of you. Principal Veyron wants us there with the withdrawal form." "Oh, you'll be there at 9. Imani's smile was sharp as a blade. "But you won't be the ones withdrawing." She walked to the door, paused. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow, Riverside Prep learns what happens when you try to erase someone who has a billionaire's attention." At 5:30 a.m., they heard it. Distant at first. Then closer. The distinctive thrum of helicopter rotors. Tomorrow had arrived. And it was arriving loud. Principal Veyron arrived at 7:47 a.m., as she did every morning. Her assistant met her at the entrance, face pale. There's a helicopter." "What?" "Landing. On the football field. Right now." A sleek black helicopter descended onto the football field. The rotors whipped the grass into a frenzy. Students gathered, phones out, filming. Parents called. Social media exploding before the blades even stopped spinning. "Who authorized this?" Veyron demanded. No one answered. The door opened. Imani Solari stepped out, followed by 2 men in expensive suits carrying briefcases. She moved like someone who owned the ground she walked on. Veyron rushed to intercept, professional smile fixed but eyes radiating panic. "Ms. Solari, this is highly irregular. Your office. Now. I don't know what you think you're doing. Your office, or we can have this conversation right here, in front of these students and the dozen cameras currently filming us. Your choice." They walked through the school, trailed by whispers and stares. Students recording everything. Teachers frozen in doorways. The entire building watching. Tavion and Kairo were already waiting. 5 minutes after entering the office, Veyron's assistant emerged. Mr. Okoye? Ms. Solari requests your presence. They walked into the office. Imani sat in the chair Tavion had occupied yesterday. But unlike Tavion, she made the chair seem too small for her, not the other way around. One of her lawyers opened a briefcase, pulled out documents. Let's start with facts. Tavion Okoye has worked here 11 years with an exemplary record. Kairo Okoye earned the highest entrance exam score in school history and maintains a perfect 4.0 GPA. Yesterday, you attempted to force Tavion to withdraw Kairo under threat of termination. Would you like to dispute any of those facts? Veyron's smile was poisonous. With all due respect, this is an internal school matter. With all due respect, Imani interrupted, leaning forward. Solari Technologies donated $4 million to this institution last year. I sit on your board of directors. I'm personal friends with 7 of the 10 other board members. So let's skip the part where you pretend this is none of my business. Veyron's smile faltered. I had my legal team review Kairo's records overnight. Every disciplinary note. Every teacher complaint. Interesting patterns emerged. She handed Veyron a document. Kairo has been accused of arrogance by 4 teachers. Do you know what each instance referenced? Correcting errors. Mathematical errors. Historical errors. Scientific errors. Each time, he was provably correct, and each time, he was punished for it. He's been marked down for attitude problems in 3 classes where he holds the highest test scores. Can you explain that? Teaching is subjective. Grading shouldn't be. Imani pulled out another document. I also had my team review scholarship retention rates. Do you know how many scholarship students have graduated from Riverside Prep in the past decade? Silence. 2. Out of 47 admitted. The other 45 either withdrew or were expelled for vague behavioral issues. Statistically fascinating. What are you accusing me of? I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm presenting facts. Imani stood, walking to the window. Here are some more facts. If Kairo Okoye withdraws from this school under any circumstances resembling pressure or discrimination, I will personally fund a civil rights lawsuit that will make national news. Elite private school forces out brilliant black student. How do you think that headline will play? I'll also immediately withdraw all Solari Technologies funding. That's 30% of your operating endowment. And I'll contact every other major donor I know and encourage them to do the same. You can't. I can. I will. And I'll enjoy watching this institution crumble. She turned back. Alternatively, here's what's going to happen. Kairo Okoye will remain enrolled with his full scholarship. Tavion Okoye will continue his employment with a 20% raise and an official apology for yesterday's meeting. And you will personally audit every scholarship student's records and present a plan to address the systematic discrimination that's been occurring. This is extortion. This is accountability. Imani walked to the door. Tavion, Kairo, would you mind waiting outside? Principal Veyron and I need to discuss some sensitive personnel matters. They left. 12 minutes later, Imani emerged. Veyron looked like she'd aged a decade. Principal Veyron has something to say. Veyron appeared, jaw clenched. Mr. Okoye. I apologize for yesterday's misunderstanding. Of course Kairo will remain enrolled. And Tavion, we value your years of service. The words came out like swallowing glass. They walked through the hallways together, Imani between them like a shield. Students stared. Teachers whispered. Mr. Brexley went visibly pale when Kairo looked directly at him. Outside, the helicopter waited, rotors spinning up. Miss Solari, I don't know how to thank you. You already did. 7 years ago. She smiled. Besides, I'm not done. Kairo, how would you feel about a summer internship at Solari Technologies? Kairo couldn't speak. She handed Tavion a business card. My personal number. If Veyron causes any problems, call immediately. And Kairo if you need anything. Tutors, resources, college application help. Whatever you need. I can't accept. You can. You will. Tavion, you pulled me from a burning car when you had every reason to keep driving. Let me help your son become everything he's capable of being. She walked toward the helicopter. Turn back. Kairo? Keep correcting those teachers. Keep insisting on being right. The world needs people who refuse to make themselves small just to make others comfortable. The helicopter lifted off. Father and son stood in the settling dust, watching it disappear. Around them, students emerged from buildings. Phones everywhere. Recording. Sharing. Going viral in real time. By lunch, 10,000 views. By evening, 100,000. By morning, every major news outlet calling. Mystery billionaire defends janitor's son at elite school. Helicopter arrival sparks discrimination investigation. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Tavion put his arm around Kairo's shoulders. Come on. You've got advanced calculus in 20 minutes. Are you going to be okay? Working here after all this? Tavion thought about 11 years of invisibility. About the look on Veyron's face when Imani had spoken. About his son, who would no longer have to apologize for being brilliant. Yeah, I think I will be. They walked back in together. This time, people stepped aside. This time, people nodded. This time, Tavion Okoye was not invisible. And he never would be again. 3 months later, Kairo stood at a podium holding a trophy. Regional mathematics competition. First place. Principal Veyron stood in the back, applauding. Her smile was professional. Her eyes were cautious. Imani sat in the front row, beaming. Tavion sat 3 rows back in a suit. He was now director of facilities. Same building. Different position. Different respect. But that wasn't the biggest change. The biggest change was the 3rd row. 7 scholarship students. Part of a new program Veyron had been encouraged to implement. The Solari Opportunity Initiative. Full scholarships. Comprehensive support. Zero tolerance for discrimination. Mr. Brexley approached after the ceremony. Congratulations, Kairo. Truly exceptional work. The pause. I owe you an apology. For how I treated you. For the assumptions I made. For being part of a system that tried to make you smaller. Kairo had imagined this moment dozens of times. Had rehearsed the perfect cutting response. But standing there, he realized something. Revenge didn't heal anything. Understanding did. Thank you for saying that, sir. It means a lot. Imani appeared at his side. Gracious. Your father raised you well. She handed him an envelope. Your internship acceptance letter. You start in June. We're working on quantum computing applications that would make your current math homework look like arithmetic. Solari Technologies. Advanced Quantum Research Division. Say you'll work hard. Say you'll keep being brilliant. Say you'll remember what it felt like to be told you didn't belong, so that when you have power someday, you use it to help people who need it. I will. I promise. But the world needs more people who refuse to accept injustice. Even when it's risky. Even when it's hard. Tavion approached. Things are changing. Slowly, but they're changing. Because of you. Because you made that phone call. No. Because you refused to be small. Because you insisted on being exactly who you are. 2 years later, Kairo stood as valedictorian. I want to talk about invisible people. For most of my time here, I tried to be invisible. I thought if I stayed quiet enough, made myself small enough, I could avoid attention. But I learned something important. Being invisible doesn't protect you. It erases you. My father worked in this building for 11 years before most people learned his name. He was invisible because we made him invisible. We chose not to see him. Until one day he chose to be seen. Not for himself, for me. He made a phone call he'd avoided for 7 years. Asked for help he'd always refused. Risked everything. And that decision changed both our lives. The courage to be seen when you've spent your life invisible, that's real bravery. The willingness to help someone be seen when you have the power to do so, that's real justice. He spoke about the 45 scholarship students pushed out before him. About the 7 graduating today. About the 20 more starting in the fall. Someone once told me to keep correcting the teachers. To keep insisting on being right even when it's inconvenient. So I'm passing it on to you. Don't make yourself small. Don't apologize for being brilliant. Don't accept a world that tells you to stay in your place. Make them make space for you. Because you belong. We all belong. And anyone who says otherwise is wrong, and you have every right to correct them. Standing ovation. Tavion openly crying. Imani beaming. 7 scholarship students watching their future unfold. 5 years later, MIT graduate, quantum physics and computer science. 7 years later, PhD, lead researcher at Solari Technologies. 10 years later, founded the Invisible No More Foundation, providing STEM education to underprivileged students. Tavion became Director of Operations at Riverside Prep. Changed hiring practices. Implemented equity training. Made sure no one would ever be invisible again. The Solari Opportunity Initiative expanded to 40 students per year. 0 pushouts. 100% college acceptance rate. Principal Veyron resigned 6 months after the helicopter. The new principal was a former scholarship student herself. The grass regrew where the helicopter landed. But the school installed a plaque. On this field, truth landed. May we never forget what happens when courage meets power in service of justice. Being invisible isn't safety. It's erasure. Power unused is power wasted. Even broken systems can heal if someone forces them to. Tavion Okoye still works at Riverside Prep. Kairo Okoye has helped over 2,000 students access STEM education. The Solari Opportunity Initiative has expanded to 47 schools nationwide. 45 former problem students were reinstated and graduated with honors. 1 phone call. 1 person choosing to be seen. 1 helicopter landing where it doesn't belong. Suddenly, the impossible becomes inevitable.